Hi, everyone. I am Colleen Robledo Green with another genealogy quick tip. This is part 3 in our series on Mexican and Hispanic naming conventions. Today's quick tip focuses on given names. I stated this in parts 1 and 2, but understanding naming conventions is critical for finding records as well as confirming identity and kinship. So let's go learn about Mexican and Hispanic conventions for given names.
In the United States, which is where I live, we are used to the traditional custom of a first name and a middle name. And we often apply that same lens to our genealogical research regardless of the culture or country. In Mexico and other Spanish-speaking countries, however, they do not practice the custom of middle names. Instead, they use what are referred to as compound given names, what we might initially think of as two first names or as multiple first names. In my early years of genealogy, when I first started researching my Mexico family lines, I had a lot of difficulty finding my focus people in the records because I did not understand the points I make here regarding given names. The first part of the given name is often, not always, but often, a traditional biblical name, such as Maria, Jose, Jesus, or Juan. Sometimes articles and/or prepositions are interspersed, like the name you see here in purple, Maria Jesus del Refugio. She was one of my many great-grandaunts. In genealogy Facebook groups, I frequently see posts from those new to Hispanic research, thinking that my aunt's name would be first name Maria, middle name Jesus, last name del Refugio, when her entire given name is that full phrase, Maria Jesus del Refugio. Yet, people in the Spanish-speaking world often go by just one of their names from that compound given name, most often throughout their life. And so we sometimes see them in historical records identified by the full compound given name or just one part of that given name. Yet, they sometimes were recorded under the other part of their compound given name. And to complicate things even more, parents often give one part of the same name to multiple children. Here we see, left to right, my second great-grandmother and two of her many daughters. Maria Ermelinda, on the right, was my great-grandmother, but my extended living family only ever knew her as Maria, or we called her Nana affectionately. When I kept coming across someone named Maria Ermelinda in historical records, I kept thinking, this has got to be the wrong person. None of my living extended family members had ever heard her referred to as Ermelinda or as Maria Ermelinda. On the left is my great-grandmother, on the left is my second great-grandmother, my Nana's mother, Maria Aurelia. She usually went by just Aurelia. However, throughout her life, we encounter her in historical records as Maria Aurelia or as Aurelia. And in the middle is my great-grandmother's oldest sister, Maria Ascension, who usually went by just Ascension. Yet again, we encounter her in historical records throughout her life as both Maria Ascension or just Ascension. Now, my second great-grandmother, Maria Aurelia, had 7 daughters, all with Maria as the first part of their given name. And she had she had more than 6 sons, but 6 of them who all had Jose as the first part of their given name. And they were all born very close together. So in order to distinguish between these siblings and to keep tracing the right individual in records throughout their lives, I have to understand the concept of compound given names. Here we see 2 records from Mexico pertaining to my great-grandmother, Maria Ermelinda Nieto Compean, who again only ever went by Maria, both in Mexico and the United States. On the left is her 1887 Catholic baptism register, and she was baptized as an infant per the custom. In the margin note on the left side of the record, we see her identified under the full compound given name of Maria or Melinda. Yet in the main record entry, the parish priest recorded her name as just Ermelinda. We do not always have margin notes in these records. If this priest did not include margin notes in these baptism registers, I would only encounter her under the name Ermelinda. On the right, we see her 1908 church matrimonio, which is the marriage ceremony record to my great-grandfather. She is referenced simply as Maria by this time, not as Maria or Melinda. And this is the same on her earlier premarital investigation, as well as on every parish register and civil registration for her children born in Mexico. She is only ever referenced in those as Maria, as well as on her U.S. border arrival card. Once living in the U.S., though, she did pretty much continue to go by just Maria, never Ermelinda. And she occasionally went by the Americanized version of her name, Mary. Another point to watch out for is that certain given names are used by both genders, including all parts of a compound given name. However, the main parts of the compound given name are ordered differently depending on the gender, such as Maria Jesus is usually a female name, while Jesus Maria is a male name. And Maria Jose is usually a female name, while Jose Maria is a male name. When I was still new to researching the Mexican side of my family history, I cannot tell you how many times I dismissed a record as being for the wrong person because I did not understand the point I just made. And it gets a little more complicated. When trying to trace another great-grandaunt, seen here, I kept dismissing records for a Maria Jesus because I thought, seeing the Jesus part, that this person was a male. My great-grandaunt's name was Maria Jesus, which is a female name. Yet, she often went by just the second part of her compound given name, Jesus, which is also used as a male name. She often went by just Jesus both in Mexico and the United States. Here we see her 1938 U.S. Declaration of Intention, on which she reports her given name as just Jesus. You now understand Hispanic naming conventions and know to watch for all variations of a person's given name in the historical records. But how might this impact your ability to search for them in name-indexed records using those search boxes we love, or even when just skimming through records as you browse them? This is another of my great-grandaunts, Maria del Refugio Nieto, who married Jose Juvenal Nieto Compean. And this is an example of the type of Mexican names reference table I often include in my research notes for a particular person when I'm looking for them in the historical records. The top part of the table pertains to variations of her compound given name. So keeping in mind the naming customs we just covered in this short lesson, when using those search boxes or quickly browsing through records, you want to look for her, under her full known compound given name, Maria del Refugio. But you also then want to look for her under that compound name without those extra prepositions or articles. So in this case, Maria Refugio. Then you want to do a separate search, or if browsing, hone in on, just look for someone with just each main part of that compound given name. So just Maria, and then also just Refugio. And you even want to do searches using the given name with all those articles and prepositions all smashed together as a single word. because people who indexed the records to make them name searchable did not always understand Hispanic naming conventions. So yes, I sometimes find given names indexed this way, with the entire compound given name smashed together as a single word. And if you are not already familiar with surname conventions in Spanish-speaking countries, you want to catch parts 1 and 2 of this quick tip video series.